um, outside of the space.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I mean, I was brought up in England and Ireland in like mainly farming communities there. My parents weren't farmers, but everyone we were interacting with was farmers, so I, you know, got a bit of influence of that there. We lived in like very rural Ireland for a bit, but yeah, I would never. Well, I had a 12 by 12 vegetable patch, but that hardly counts by as farming.
That's still good though.
It's
That's
all matters. It all counts.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Just knowing, I guess, where your food comes from and having, I don't know, just exposure to growing food. It's good.
Yeah, it was unbelievable for sure. Yeah,
Mm.
I was apparently milking cows when I was 4 years old, but I don't
Oh
remember
yeah,
it.
that's so good. We got photos of me on the tractor. So my dad driving me up on the arch, which is which looking at it's not that safe. But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, when I was younger, yeah.
yeah. I got some pictures of me on a tractor as well. It was like a really old tractor at the time as well. Like it was taken like in the 90s, but the tractor was probably like 70s or something.
All right, that's funny as.
Yeah. So how about yourself? You said you're at uni still currently, or are you doing agriculture stuff there?
Yeah, so I started my ag science degree at the University of Sydney. So the actual name of it is it's super long. It's Bachelor of Science and a Bachelor of Advanced Studies in Agriculture, majoring in soil science and hydrology, and a second major in plant production. And so I'm in my second year at the moment. Yeah, but I had a massive, I guess, background in growing up on the farm and done other courses, just non uni kind of courses,
Hmm.
regen ag. Do you know advancing eco agriculture?
Huh. No, I didn't.
John Kemp. You know, have you heard of
Oh,
John
right,
Kemp?
right, right. Yeah, yeah. Yep, John Kemp, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, so he has what the Regen Academy. I've done a couple of his courses, which are really good. Yeah, but
Nice.
yeah, that's what I'm up to, and doing regenerative consulting, like my own consulting thing on the side, farm work at home. Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely need
and
more of that.
yeah, and this project too. It's yeah, lots of time, focus putting into this. Yeah,
Yeah,
Very busy.
you're
We
ne-
all are.
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I know Ray always has like 304 things on his plate.
yeah.
I'm trying to trim that down though. Just can't attend all these Zoom meetings anymore, you know. They just hijack your whole evenings, and I'm trying to rush to places to find internet and stuff. So, got to be more mindful of where the energy is going. And yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I still want to try and go on those Regenipreneur things that the that Josh hosts.
mm,
But he's taking a pause on those now. But there's
mm,
some very interesting people that do pop on them then. But yeah, there's for all the uh global regenerative collab events,
mm,
there's an awful lot of them, and then all the other groups as well. So yeah,
mm,
totally get that.
mm. Well, I've been going to that one for like over 2 years now, so it's definitely met a lot of amazing people hanging out in that Zooms, those Zooms. So
Yeah, it's interesting that again, yeah, a diverse range of people that pop into it for sure.
mm, yep. So, Will, just on our project, like what are some of the things that really stood out to you and got you kind of excited about what we're working on?
Well, in general, definitely. So I don't think there's that many well, there's a couple at the moment, but there's not that many crossovers between Regen Ag and the crypto space.
Mm,
Obviously this is just NFTs as well. Um, but then also the focus on agroforestry. Um, Also interesting. And I mean, like I knew that you know what you're talking about, right? So your presence was an endorsement to me at least.
thank you.
So yeah, that's sort of how these new structures could be used to fund other projects was something also of interest, and also how DAOs or other sort of decentralized organizational structures could be used in regeneration as well. Because I mean, so I mentioned before, but like my background is very much in tech and very much in like Silicon Valley tech, with all its flaws, and there's many, but especially sort of like the typical startup, like go VC, go big or go home. I've seen a lot of that, and there are the way that it is structured does not necessarily bring a like good is not beneficial for everyone, I guess. Like there's better ways that I think you could structure businesses. I mean, there's tons of stuff around here, right? There's the Muhammad Yunus, who's won the Nobel Peace Prize like several years ago, has the social business concept, and there's also a bunch of other different sort of ideas of reworking how businesses could be structured. But that is also how that plays into crypto and DAO is sort of something that I'm interested in as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a blurb, but yeah.
No, I love it. No, it's good.
That's good.
I love, the fact that you're in that tech Silicon Valley kind of startup and being, admitted that there is good things and there's some things that don't work. There are flaws in it, so yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any questions in regards to our project or anything that we can help answer? I know you've had lots of suggestions in the channel, which is awesome, and I appreciate
Yeah, they're really good. Yeah. I love seeing a lengthy paragraph. It's good.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, a lot of it is just me sort of reading the regen stuff and then trying to,
Sorry.
interpret it and how it can be applied. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really good.
Awesome.
Some Mega Babe also joined us. Any questions that you guys would like us to cover off in regards to our project MetaTrees?
Or any suggestions? I'd be glad to hear them. Or yeah.
I mean, I've got sort of some questions, I guess, that we've talked. This is also like I'm familiar with the crypto space. Like I understand like most of the sort of how blockchain ecosystem sort of works, but sort of the NFT game is a bit more foreign to me. So it might be along those lines of some of where I'm confused about. Okay, how do I answer this or ask this? So at the moment, the NFT that is proposed to be minted, is like it's not an investable asset in itself, right? There's no, like it doesn't have any land rights or it doesn't have any revenue rights itself. It's more for just sort of ownership of that NFT, which will be a specific block of land. Again, not ownership, but like sort of for that. I'm not explaining myself properly, but maybe if you could explain sort of what the I don't know how to ask properly.
Yeah, so that's a good point. It's so the NFT itself doesn't hold any equity in the, I guess the farm or ownership of that, and it's very, I guess we don't want to get on the wrong side of the law with, I don't know, becoming a security or some fund,
Right.
with that. In terms of, I guess, income, there's opportunities that we can go down, definitely with the carbon credit side of things. That's not on our roadmap because again we need to talk to some more professionals about the way that would be structured to make sure everyone's good legally and I guess for tax purposes too. But we want to be able to I guess supply value to everyone without trying to build up hype behind it. We don't want to promise something and only deliver because we promised on it. We want to be able to bless everyone with these kind of benefits, and just do it because it's our community rather than I guess promising something. But the ownership of the NFT itself is more so the support at the moment of the project, as well as all the utilities and stuff behind it. So events, exclusive rights to voting, exclusive merch, and all that kind of stuff. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's it. That's what I suspected for sure, but I just wanted to be clear because I'd seen in other contexts NFTs being used for like ownership of rights of digital content that can then be done later. And I was thinking like theoretically, like the land could be used to generate revenue, just not from carbon credits, but also long way down the line from actual, selling of tree produce, I guess, or something like that, like nuts or whatever. So yeah, lots of ideas around that, but yeah, I just want to be clear what is currently the plan today. And it seems it's mainly to support the project, and that's totally fine. That's totally what I was expecting. So cool.
There's an opportunity to open that up into like bigger things. Like currently, it's more so for support, and anything else is more of just a added benefit to everyone that was early, pretty much.
Makes sense. Thanks, Les.
All good. Do you have any like suggestions around that, or any areas of concern?
Um, I mean, again, I'm not that familiar with the NFT space. Like all I know is like more of the hype around it, where a lot of very specific artists are able to create an NFT that is then more popular, and then a lot of people like sell it and resell it very quickly. Right, which is a bit more of the whole cash side of crypto, which has its own problems. But yeah, so I guess obviously you don't want to generate false hype for it, but also at the same time you do want to make sure it's somewhat popular so that you can, go actually get them sold so that you can regenerate the land. So I guess that's a fine balance to tread. Again, I don't have much experience in that whatsoever, so I might be talking out my arse, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's all really good points that you made. I guess like the most detail will go down to like each NFT will plant a tree and there will be GPS coordinates. We hope that in the future, people who then eventually come to the farm can go and find the tree that they planted based on GPS locations and things like that. There won't be any like actual ownership of the tree or anything that can potentially be yielded from it in the future, but it'll be more of like a revenue share or an open source kind of idea that we will layer on top down the track. But again, there's a lot of ideas on the whiteboard, but we really want to let the community and token, tree holders kind of define what the future looks like. We will have the ability to run votes around different decision making, and then the community can say, well, as a holder, we want to see this happen and that happen. And so there's lots of ideas on the whiteboard, but nothing like in concrete yet as a solid plan for that reason of like, let's build it together as a community. And there's a sense of ownership where people from all around the world can basically help steer what this project looks like.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's totally awesome as well to build that. Thank you guys for doing it.
Yeah, no, it's super fun. I'm so excited, you know. And because this is such a long-term play for us, there's no hype to sell out on day one, or like all that kind of stuff that happens in a lot of other discords. It's really about just organically and authentically growing people who are super excited to come into the community and kind of fall in love with the idea and the project, and not just hype in because they've had to do all this hype stuff in Discord and Twitter and stuff like that. So yeah, we can't physically plant 25,000 trees in week one either. So, it'd be crazy for us to have
physical restraints. What is this?
So no, it's good. We got no quick short-term thinking on this project. It is definitely like the long game,
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so with all that being said, I think long term it would be really cool to explore those ideas of maybe not direct ownership of land, but totally like revenue sources from that small piece of land, such that it can more people can regenerate more land by owning just a small piece of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, long term.
It's so funny that you guys talk about long term and short term in the NFT space. what they keep on saying is like a week is basically a month in the NFT space. So when we talk about regenerative agriculture, especially in permaculture, you're supposed to take the long route all the time. Like they always choose slow solutions. So it's kind of interesting to see like these two opposing kind of concepts come together. Yeah, because you have one camp that wants to do it really slow, and I think that's the proper way to go. But then again, the investors are so used to something happen really fast. So I'm just excited to see how you guys come up with that balance.
Yeah, thanks.
That's a
Oh,
really
you
good
go.
point. It's like two worlds of like this real fast moving this real fast moving space of the NFT and crypto, but then also this very slow space of nurturing land and letting nature take its slow divine course, kind of overlapping. So yeah, that's a pretty cool distinction.
Yeah, I agree.
What do
That's
you guys
it's
have? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, you go.
What are you guys thinking about the 25,000 mint? I mean, to be honest and not to be offensive, it's kind of scary for me because you know how morale can go down if you don't mint as many as you intend. So most of I know that you've done the math, and it's going to cost this much, and we really need to populate the area with lots of trees. Um, but would you consider something like phases? Maybe like initial drop of this many, and then but all totaling up to 25,000. What are your thoughts around that?
Sorry, what do you mean by? So
Um,
what was the question?
um, what are you thinking about the sheer number of 25,000 to mint?
Oh, okay.
Like on a supply and demand thing, which can affect the prices, especially if you don't mint out everything on the first drop. It just is concerning to me in the sense that we might not be able to maintain the hype. And of course, we're not about the hype, it's about the long term solution. But of course, it's involved in the space.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, yeah, our project is definitely higher supply than others. It's like the standard is the 10K. We decided to like there was I guess another option, which was to have each NFT have what 2.5 trees or support 2.5 trees, and have 10K. But then we would have to increase the price of each to a much higher. And so it would make it sometimes that would make it a bit more inaccessible to others which aren't so confident in the NFT space. And so we really wanted to make this project something that could introduce people that aren't already in the space into NFTs without a high financial barrier. And so that's one reason. Another reason is that it's just a bit more of a clean number. So one NFT per tree, and with the size of the land we're wanting to regenerate, we really like that 25,000 is the key number that we're trying to focus on, so that we can have enough, I guess, farm land for pasture while maintaining a good planting density for the trees.
Mm.
Ray, do you have
Sounds
any?
good. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I was just thinking maybe you can phase it out. Like a first mint would be this many, and then I don't know. Of course, it's your call, but
yeah, I know what you're saying as well in regards to like the first mint could have been 5,000 and then the second mint 10,000 and then another 10,000. So breaking it up into like Genesis drop and, drop one, drop two type of thing. So yeah, that could have been a possibility. I think because me personally want to kind of, show people the fact that we're like a full docs team. We're like showing really like where we operate and what we're doing, that it's full authenticity. It's like, we don't care if this takes 2 years to sell out. It's all part of that. Let's play the long game. Let's do things a little bit differently to what everyone else is doing. So yeah, I think from that point of view, it's just more about putting something out there that is a little bit different. And I think that last tree to be minted, if it does take a little bit longer, there is kind of more of like an awesome celebration to that. But yeah, I think I love your thoughts and your ideas on that. But yeah, at the moment we're 25K, and hopefully we can then pick this model up and then apply it to other farms around the world as well. So there will be other drops in the future, and maybe some other farming kind of characters and things like that. But at the moment, we just focus on the trees, get them in, and look at the other ideas later.
Yeah, and to add on to that, there's to address the market, like the market size of that, there's another project called Crypto Trunks. They're another tree project, but ours is quite uniquely different with taking the regenerative agriculture part and planting the trees ourselves and whatnot. But their total NFT collection at the moment is 23.5 thousand. And I think they're sold out at the moment with 11.5 thousand owners, with a trader volume of 590 ETH. So I definitely think there's a market. It's not that there's a scarce amount of people wanting to get in. There's definitely a large enough market to for NFTs to supply. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I mean, let's sell out all of the 25,000. I'm excited to see that happen. It's just like, yeah.
So you mentioned that you were. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
You mentioned that you were scared. Like, what scares you about such a big number? Just curious in your usage of that word.
I've seen like projects that have lost their value over time, and I think it's largely because of the community. They lost the hype. They didn't maintain the marketing, or they didn't stay active in the Discord. So after mint, people started offering me large amounts for this NFT, and then I just saw it basically degrade, and they weren't able to sustain it. So I wouldn't want to see that happen to you guys.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. No, awesome. Yeah, that's really good point. And again, I think part of our long-term planning is that the marketing of this never stops. Like Till and I are basically working on this project for the rest of our lives, and it is all about that continual marketing during and after mint. I'm feeling that once the project gets off the ground, it will even get interest in like offline media channels. I think at the moment the world's a bit distracted with COVID, Ukraine, and in Australia we've got massive floods happening along the east coast of Australia. So everyone's a little bit distracted at the moment. But I think as that settles down, there's some really good feel-good stories that could come out of this project. And I know that mainstream media, quote unquote, will jump on that. When we're physically planting trees and having the ability to do photo opportunities, that will just bring more attention to the project. I feel so. Yeah.
And we also want
ongoing.
Yeah, and we also want sustainable growth over time. So that's why we're not taking this massive hype approach, where we hype up the launch, it jumps to 125 ETH, but there's nothing to sustain that and drops down. So we don't want a massive hyped up unsustainable launch, and I guess that really mirrors this project and the aims of this project, which is to regenerate a farm, and that's supposed to be sustainable. So we don't want the project, like the project side of it, to be unsustainable, because that doesn't really speak to the sustainability of the farm. So we want that all to be mirrored with everything we do. So a nice steady growth constantly, not just up and down, highly volatile, just a nice steady growth as we build value for everyone.
Just to riff on that, that was also, at least in my understanding of when I initially read it, that was also a worry or concern of mine, is that it was a very big number. But that does now make a little bit more sense, as you're describing it, as you're specifically trying to avoid the hype such that you can, or at least that's how I'm interpreting it, avoid the hype so that you can have a long sustainable project. But yeah, initially that was a worry of mine, and I imagine that a lot of people coming into it, that is also going to be a worry of theirs.
Yeah. The other thing, like 10,000, it's a bit of a, like, it's just someone just picked it kind of thing. It's just nothing I've read supports that fixed number, if that makes sense. Like, at least we've looked at the stocking rate and the size that we wanted to regenerate, and then kind of worked it back. Yeah, so that's just something of note.
Yeah, how, out of interest, how did you guys sort of pick sort of the land size that you wanted to regenerate? Because I mean, I think I remember you saying like the landmass size, and it seems large for at least US standards, and US standards are reasonably big. Australia is a different ballgame, but like compared to like the rest of the world that are working on like a very small amount of acreage, it does seem like a fairly large chunk of land.
Yeah. So for the location, so ideally in the central west New South Wales, that is it's large-ish. I mean, there's definitely smaller plots of land. So we're thinking 500 hectares, which is about I say 1,000 acres roughly. That's the standard, I guess, size land around central west for grazing and low intensity cropping. So what we want to also achieve with this project is to show other farmers that it's very achievable to regeneratively farm their land. And so we kind of have to mirror the farming environment that they're into, because there's no point in having a 10 hectare or 10 acre block and saying, oh, we planted all these trees and it's regenerated, when these farmers are using, like, they're on 500 hectares. And so 500 hectares is quite manageable for 1-2 kind of people team, definitely when it's a beef grazing enterprise. Cropping, even that's still manageable. There's farms out west, out near parks, which are on the 500 hectare kind of scale. So much larger. So it's, understand that it's a bit bigger to the standards of other countries. For Australia, when we have a lot of space and our climate doesn't really allow really intensive agricultural practices, that is kind of, it's a good size. It's decent. Not the biggest, but not too small.
That makes total sense. Now that you've explained that, okay, yeah, no, totally. You want to have like a farm that is comparable to other farms so that you can use it as a pilot project.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. Cool. Thanks for clarifying that.
Oh, good. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, the average acre size in the US is 400 acres, which is whatever, divide that by 2.5 for hectares. So yeah, a lot smaller.
Yep.
But I guess that also begs the question of how much, and maybe we're getting too much into the details, but like how much of it is sort of planned for like rotational grazing, and then how much of it is planned for actual like cropland, and then also just agroforestry.
Yeah. So we want to plan it so it's all a big integrated system. So we're going to have if you have a look at the I made up an example in the roadmap section. You might be able to see there we've got like corridors of trees, and so that's the kind of, I guess, setup where we're thinking about. Like percentage wise, it'll vary with the land. For cropping, we're thinking of using pasture cropping, which is a system where over the summer you let your native perennials grow, and then you graze it, and then you sow direct drill straight into that for your winter crop. So each paddock will have multiple different enterprises stacked on top. So it's not going to be just this paddock for just grazing, and just this paddock for cropping. It'll be both, so as long as the land class can carry that. Percentage wise, ideally for the forest, 30% of a hill slope. That would be ideal for the trees. But as I said, it really depends.
Per region. I like it. Yeah, total integrated system.
And also, I didn't mention, but all the tree space, once it's regenerated, we'll be able to graze that too. So crash graze it for a short time, and what that does is it actually stimulates a greater amount of plant growth. And so we'll be able to crash graze all the bush areas, and then move the livestock out into the pasture. So the trees will be a utilized area, not just I guess left, if that makes sense.
Total sense. Awesome. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear your ideas about the farm plan too, and if you have any like suggestions or like ideas about certain things, I'd love to hear it.
Are you guys considering like IoT things, like sensors and stuff? So I know that you're going to be updating the community through a YouTube channel, but I don't know, something, like when you watch pandas or something, there's like a camera watching the growth.
Totally.
I don't know. Yeah.
Totally. I've been exploring what they call low frequency Wi-Fi or long range Wi-Fi. So anyway, there's like a new type of technology that a lot of farmers are putting out onto their paddocks and so forth, and using Internet of Things. So automated gates, and even the space, the farm itself is to become like a learning space and a learning center, and that's why we want to do it open source, is that people can learn with us as we're building out this farm. We want to test things like virtual collars, virtual fencing, and virtual collars on livestock, and see how that works with GPS locations. We want to integrate drone technology to do flyovers and check different parts of the farm for maintenance, and build sensors across the property, so that way there's a dashboard that we can look at the farm's health from anywhere in the world. So
Cool.
definitely with my tech startup geeky background, they're all things that I really want to play around with, to show farmers there's this balance of like letting nature nurture with time, but then also
Right.
technology can intervene to make us work smarter. I think sometimes we use technology like tractors and power tools to try and create a shortcut, but that then just interrupts what Mother Nature intended to do slowly. So yeah, using water sensors and things like that will be quite cool to even with the farm plan here, like there's a lot of thought around where the water is flowing and whether it needs to be slowed down, and keeping the water on the property as long as we possibly can, using techniques from different people in Australia. Like one of them is like natural sequence farming, which is all about slowing the water flow. And the more monitors and data points we collect, the easier we're going to be able to see the benefits of that over time.
That's so cool. I want to see that happen.
Me too.
Yeah.
And this is like some of the things that we could, let the community in on. Like maybe there's a, members only, or, a MetaTree only dashboard that people can load up and see,
Right.
how the farm's providing, and like live stream videos of the trees growing, and things like that.
I was thinking about it, and how everybody's trying to. I think there was a suggestion of securing land in the metaverse, and I was thinking this farm that you're building, for some people who physically can't make it, it's actually what a metaverse is. We're hanging out in the Discord space. It's a virtual space for them because they can't go there physically. So to me, it's kind of good to buy a space in the metaverse, in the traditional metaverse, because this one is metaverse, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Um, and and that will be the whole point of like doing a metaverse iteration down the track, where people can visit the farm virtually, but also using video technology and things like that, hosting events on the farm, but people being able to join through the metaverse and watch it on a screen. So they're not physically at the farm, but they're virtually at the farm, and still engaging with an event that is happening on site.
How what kind of timelines are you looking at for these kind of plans?
As in the like regenerative process, or like what aspects are you talking about?
Of course, the regeneration is like 50 years, I would guess.
Yeah,
At
so
least. Yeah.
I reckon we can regenerate the farm to a reasonable production within 3 years using different practices. The trees themselves will take 25 to 50 years to reach maturity. But in terms of improving the soil fertility and health, we can do that. We can see massive improvements within 6 months, kind of thing. Like there's a very quick turnaround to see improvement, like to begin to see improvement quite quickly with correct management. So that's
I,
that. Oh, sorry, what was that?
sounds good. Sounds good.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, so just maybe to talk a bit more on that, like with correct grazing, so holistic management of our livestock to make sure that we're not overgrazing pastures, and we're giving the plants a long time to put down their roots. Make sure they're feeding the microbes with root exudates, which is actually like that's the mechanism that builds a lot of soil organic matter. And then yeah, there's different other strategies like supplement feeding trace minerals to livestock, so that the plants get it. Yeah, I'm in big favor of selectively correcting mineral deficiencies and improving microbe activity. So that's one thing that has a really good crop response that we can use to regenerate really quickly the soil quality. The trees, yeah, they will take a bit longer. Yeah, we'll also be digging contour banks, no, contour lines, with the natural sequence farming method to store a lot more water across the landscape too.
Like key line design stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a guy in Australia. His name's Peter Andrews. It's not exactly keyline, but it's a similar kind of principle kind of thing. It's a lot more to the Australian landscape than I guess the European or likewise.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. If you have a link to that, or maybe I can just go ahead and Google it, but that would be interesting as well to compare those two.
Yeah, no worries. I'll put it in the Treehouse chat.
Just
Yeah, one of the things that he observed is that European settlement came to Australia and applied the European style of farming too quickly and changed the way that the Australian landscape actually naturally hydrated itself, and moved minerals from lower parts of the ground back up to the top. So he's spent his whole life kind of singing this song, and it's now that people are really starting to realize what he's been on about, and giving him really good kudos, yeah, for his work. And he's written a couple of books, and yeah, quite interesting. But key lining is a way of kind of explaining it. And what I mentioned before as well about slowing the flow, I think what happened in Australia is we tried to move water into reservoirs way too quickly because of, drought resilience. But all that did was just, get the water into the reservoirs really quickly into like river streams, but didn't slow the water. So it actually kept all the other parts of the landscape hydrated. And so we created these very V-like channels of rivers that just move water to reservoirs, but not actually keep water on the land. So he's much more about like letting the water slowly sleep through the land and creating obstacles and slowing the flow down to keep the water on your property for as long as you can, which
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, I just added the link to his website. He has a book which is really good. Back for the Brink, I think. I'm sure it'll be on his website, but that's a good read to get an idea.
Good, thank you.
All good.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, I know a lot of similar stuff, but it's mainly either US based or there's actually a lot of stuff going on in India around it as well. The Pani Foundation doing essentially, they had a competition with all the villages, like sort of crafting essentially keyline designs for the neighborhood to try and regenerate their farms, which is interesting stuff.
Yeah, like one thing that Peter Andrews spoke on in his book is that in the like real original like ancient landscape, so this is before the indigenous people came, it used to be like a chain of kind of swamps connecting just like across Australia, and so there wasn't really many rivers or rivers that we like have today. That's kind of caused from degradation from, I guess, fire and then European settlement. So restoring the landscape to almost a chain of ponds and swamps is one of the key principles in his, and that's very much suited to our old soils.
It's really cool. Yeah, it's interesting how it changes so much by context.
Yeah,
Of course
yeah,
it
for
would,
sure.
but yeah.
And that's one of the things that I would love to focus on is this terminology of like literacy of the land, like being able to teach people to look at the landscape and see the contours and see the water flow and become observers of the land before they start making decisions. And that's one of the things that I've noticed in my work in the regen space is that I went to a farm recently, and the farmer there was basically saying if he doesn't move the cattle and then sit and just watch them for 2 hours, it's not a good day. He wants to be less busy, so he's got more time to observe the animals and how they're interacting with each other, which plants they're going to eat first, observing where the sun is, the time of day, the temperature, the season, and making really detailed observations so that way he can make better decisions in the future. And I think that's one of the things that, becoming observers and understanding the literacy of the land. So that way, when you're walking through, you can go, "Oh, this must have just happened because I'm seeing this pattern over and over and over." And that's the part that kind of excites me about open sourcing and teaching that as we progress through this journey as well.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I'm finally getting to hear some about that trip of farm tours you had.
I know. Yeah. And luckily, I stopped when I did because there's so much rain at the moment. So
Yeah, you'd be stranded somewhere.
I know. And I was thinking about it like weeks ago. I was literally up at Coffs Harbour and driving down through, everywhere that's basically flooded and closed off at the moment. So pretty
Ah,
crazy.
true.
I know.
Yeah,
Is
it's
that
always
flooding
weird.
getting worse, or does it always, well, not always, but like has it been like that since, a couple of decades or something?
No, it's pretty worse. Yeah.
Okay, right.
There are like shopping centres underwater, McDonald's underwater. Um, yeah. There's the houses in Queensland are built on stilts, so that way it's accommodating for water, and people are having to like stand on the top of their peak of their roofs and try and get rescued. Um, so yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That's
Yeah.
nuts. Yeah, Jesus.
It's always crazy to see or be near a flood and see where like what used to be there, like the road or say the power lines, and there's water up to the power lines. It's always crazy to think like the amount of water that's flowing through is just mind-boggling. We had a flood in my area last year, and just watching the river kind of swell up and like triple in size is just crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts. Jeez. Yeah, how farms could survive that must be very, very difficult.
Yeah. Like my grandfather, no great grandfather, he used to run citrus on our property. So he used to have all the trees and stuff there. But after all these floods, he just said, no, not doing it anymore. It just got way too hard to, grow back your citrus after, flooding every year.
Yeah, it takes a while to get it back.
Mm.
So I mean, you were mentioning that you could at least move the cattle. But like is there anything that you could plant that could survive that? Like, is there certain types of rices that might survive for a while underwater?
I mean, like the citrus, they don't die if they go underwater. Like the plants aren't going to die if they're underwater for a couple of days and say it goes down. You just need healthy plants to make sure they survive. But for him, I think it was just like it was back in the day. I was getting just way too much work and too much hassle. So I'm working with a grower at the moment near like our place. Last year, the flood took out a lot of, it covered a lot of his plants. So I'm working with him to get his plants back to like really healthy plants. But I mean, yeah, this flood will they'll knock him around a bit. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, a properly healthy plant and having really good soil health that will make the plant a lot more resistant to floods. They'll be able to survive a lot, I guess, longer and bounce back quicker than if it was a sick plant.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and so are they underwater for like days on end, or is it weeks on end? Or it really depends.
Not not all, in our area. Maybe a day or two. Um, when it goes down pretty quickly um, once it's past its peak. But I mean, it could be under for you know, 4 maybe even days. By the time it comes up, reaches the peak and comes down.
It's probably also more the current that is more destructive, that kind of bends and breaks and
It's true.
ruins everything. It's not so much the time underwater, but it's also the lifestyle. Like logistically, like roads break, so then trucks can't get through. Shops close down because they refix everything and rebuild. There's the big fires that happened in Victoria a couple of years ago. There's people now that's been 2 years on and they still haven't gotten their settlements or their payments, and they've had to live through COVID and things aren't fixed. So it just takes so long to bounce back, especially coming off 2 years of COVID and fires before that and mini floods in the middle. It's quite hard to know what the farmers are going to do to bounce back. So yeah, it's just good to see kind of communities get together, and that's why I'm so motivated in this NFT space, that when this all gets off the ground, that we can start having impact on projects like that as well, and bring more light to the fact that NFTs can be used in a way of bouncing back from disasters as well, not just to create a project, so more in real life, and that's why I was on a podcast yesterday and I just said, as advice, if anyone's sitting on an idea, like just do it, because doing something and making 25% of it work is better than 0%. And I think the world needs more positive impact projects at the moment from all around the world. Look at what's happened in Ukraine as well, where governments are freezing money and banks can't give out money, and then like Elon Musk launches satellites out there to make sure that everyone's got internet and people are moving their money into exchanges and crypto. Like, yeah, it's just power to the people again, I guess, and we're starting to see real life examples of that, where people are getting together and supporting each other more than governments, and bodies that were meant to be there for us. You know?
Yeah, certainly we have a lot of problems with such things in California with the fires as well. So yeah, can definitely relate to that part.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're close to the hour. Any final thoughts, questions, ideas, or we'll wrap this AMA out?
Thank you guys for hosting this, and yeah, are you planning to do this sort of every month or something like that?
Probably every week.
Every week, okay.
Yeah, just until, because we're only like less than a month away till whitelist and public mint. So, anything you guys can do to help pull people into the Discord or get others excited, don't, spam shill or anything like that, but just, genuine people who come into the project who get excited about an in real life NFT project would be awesome.
Sure.
Yeah. Actually, I ghostwrite for this NFT enthusiast. And most of our publication, I mean, it gets published on either Forbes or E27, aside from his personal blog. So I'm trying to figure out if I can kind of, because this is one topic that I'm writing on right now for E27. Something about impact NFTs, and I'll try to get a shout out in in the article. So
That'd be awesome.
I'm
yeah.
doing a happy dance.
Let's see.
Okay.
The other one is kind of about Web2 business owners and how they kind of impact if you're going to be a blue chip NFT, something like that. So that's our angle for the Forbes one, but I think there's space for it in the E27 one.
Have you heard of the green chip movement space?
I did through you guys. So I've been following them on Twitter.
Yeah, nice. They're worthwhile looking into, and yeah, I think it'll be a big space. Like definitely that impact, the impact NFT side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Healing Earth. Cool.
Love
it. All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming along, and hopefully all the technology worked. I can get a replay out. And I was also on a podcast yesterday, so I might share that link as well, so that you might be able to pick some extra words and thoughts out of the project. Awesome.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Right. Thanks, guys. We'll
Thank
talk to you soon.
you.
Cheers.
See you guys around.